Welcome to Trail Chums. We're the Chums. My name is Kat.
And my name is Emma.
And we take on trails vertically and horizontally. Today we're going to talk about climbing shirtless as a girl. You've seen all the hot dudes, or potentially the not so hot dudes. In general, hot people do this a lot.
Yeah.
You've seen them take off their shirts at the gym, maybe outside. If you're lucky enough to actually go outside, you have a crash pad, you're rich, that's incredible. Or you're just really lucky to have really good friends.
Yeah, just have great
You can't
friends.
tell that we really want to be rich or have really good friends that have crash pads because we really want to go outside.
Hit us up if you have crash pads
We're
and are near the Glasgow area.
We're looking for crash pads and for friends. You don't need to have one. We also are looking for just friends. But yeah, I think a really big part of climbing is like not necessarily. I feel like it's a funny thing because like what you're wearing is really not a big part of climbing, but then specifically this one area of climbing of whether you're wearing a shirt or not matters so much. Maybe more to girls than it does to guys, because I think that's really what we want to tackle today is like all the guys feel like fine to take off their shirt anytime.
At least most guys, definitely.
Most guys. I think there's definitely like when you look a certain way, which a lot of climbers naturally do because they exercise a lot in a specific way, they're comfortable taking off their shirt, whereas girls are not. But I think, yeah, we kind of want to unpack that today of like why that's such a big deal as a female climber to have the opportunity to take off your shirt. Because I know I felt super uncomfortable doing it.
And I feel so uncomfortable doing it that I've never done it.
Yeah, I've done it once, and it was about 30 degrees outside, and I was climbing outdoors at an indoor gym, which is awesome. And it was just impossible for me to like keep cool without taking off my shirt. But I was also surrounded by family, and I think that was primarily who was there. So it wasn't really a big deal to take off my shirt. My brother didn't have a shirt on. But I did still I felt really self-conscious. That was a really hard word.
That's always a
felt
hard
really
word.
self-conscious making the decision to take off my shirt. I think I had to I was telling my mom, do you think it's okay? Do you think I'm covered enough with my sports bra? Do you really think I could do it? It was that big of a deal that I had to talk it through with my mother, whether I could take off my shirt while I was fully covered underneath, or at least my boobies were, which is apparently the big deal, the big difference of whether your boobs are out or not.
Yeah.
But it was still I think as soon as I took off my shirt, I was like, this is ridiculous. Why haven't I done this before? It's incredibly warm. Everyone else has their shirt off. Why does it matter?
Well, yeah, and I spent the entire summer climbing in such conditions, climbing in Croatia when it was 30 degrees, and it was a pretty small gym that got very hot very quickly when people are in there. And yet, even when my mom insisted, why don't you take off your shirt and just climb in a sports bra? What are you doing? You get home so sweaty every single time. Why are you climbing like this? And I just couldn't convince myself that it was okay for me to take off my shirt. And there's a lot of internal things that I need to work on in order to be able to do that. But I think that it's just, if I was even in my brother's shoes, I probably wouldn't even consider it. And it doesn't even, and I think for dudes, it's even more, it doesn't really even matter their body type, because a lot of dudes would simply take it off and enjoy their climbing and not think about it. And in fact, be more liberated, because realistically, you're just free to move around.
Yeah, because I think that's a really big deal, is it doesn't really matter blah, 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 your body thing, and it's a really big decision up in your head, but it's so comfortable to not have any restrictions. And I think after that, I've consciously changed what I wear. I used to climb in t-shirts or long sleeve when it was colder, and now I only wear tank tops for most of the time, because it's so nice to have your shoulders free, and it makes such a big difference in being able to do the big moves that you don't feel restricted by your clothing. And I think that's why it's so awesome to climb shirtless. I can't see us doing it in the near future in Scotland,
no.
even indoors, because we went climbing the other day
in sweaters.
And yeah, I was wearing a fleece.
Well, and to be fair, everyone in that gym was starting off in their jackets when they started off climbing, especially the girls, because it's just cold.
It is so cool. So it's not really a matter for now. I guess we're waiting for summer for this to be relevant again.
But also, I think we spent the entire summer thinking about it, or at least I did, because at the gym that I climbed at, it was a very tight-knit group of people, and all of them tended to be very intense climber dudes who, from age range of 20 to 45, were all so muscular and so well built, and it's obvious they spend a lot of time, as you said, doing exercise. And they would always walk around shirtless. There was specifically a group of like 10 dudes that would come in, take off their shirts, and start climbing 7+s. Whereas when there were some guys that were obviously not built the same way, and I think they haven't been doing climbing as long, and I've never seen them take off their shirts. So I know that it's also an entire embracing your body thing for dudes as well, but I think girls are more taught so to consider themselves and consider their bodies not worthy of the stereotypes or what we expect in the media.
But do you think that it's not even necessarily, because I think everyone's like concerned about their body type, but for me I think it's more the whole like sexualization of women's bodies that I'm concerned about, rather than like whether I think I like my body or not. Because I think when I'm climbing is like the one time where I've never doubted that my body was like functional, which I think has been incredible. So in terms of like body positivity, it does a lot on like, well, maybe not, doesn't live up to what I think it should in the beauty standards, blah blah blah, but it can climb walls, which is insane. So I think in that sense, but I think I'm so concerned that like dudes are gonna look at me funny, or like in some way it's gonna be like weird because I'm like the one girl climbing, or like we're two women climbing.
Yeah, I think for me it's definitely both. I don't think it's just the sexualization thing. I think it's definitely, I just don't feel comfortable exposing that much skin at that point while I'm climbing, which is insane because I wear crop tops all the time, and really what's the difference between climbing in a sports bra?
It's a few like inches of clothing.
Yeah, so there's not much of a difference there, but I think it's just because I'm so aware of my body. As you said, you're very aware of the functionality of your body, and I'm just aware of all aspects.
Just thinking about my body.
Just thinking about my body, and I think it was really hard for me to focus on my climbing if I was also thinking about, oh, but people can see this part of my stomach or my tummy, and or maybe the sports bra doesn't cover enough. You know, it's just there's too many aspects to think about. Whereas, you know, dudes that climb shirtless just don't consider all of those aspects, and of course it's more liberating to climb shirtless.
But I think it's funny because like the whole like being so aware of your body, I think it was so obvious to me while I was climbing shirtless for those like 2 hours that I've done it, that as I was on the wall, it was like not a big deal at all. I didn't think about it for like half a second. And then as soon as I came down, I was like, ooh, my body, everyone can see it. Like I felt like I wanted to put my shirt on immediately after coming down from the wall, which I think is ridiculous because like it's the same body that's on the wall and off the wall, but I feel like it was justified on the wall where it wasn't justified being on a mattress.
Yeah, which is also kind of ridiculous because how many times do you see dudes just sitting on the mats without their shirts? And it's relatively cold in Scotland, so it's not really that justified. But I think that for me, it was because it was such a small gym, and all the it just felt like people could see you at every second, and you didn't really feel that comfortable with the anonymity of it because there was none. And everyone sort of knew who I was, and you'd think that would make me more comfortable, but because it wasn't, it was sort of like an acquaintance space. Acquaintance? Yeah, acquaintance space. Well, we knew this was going to happen at some point, but but I think that's what sort of made it hard for me, was because they knew my name, so I couldn't just be, well, these people are never going to see me again, because they very much were going to see me at least twice a week. But I also then didn't feel comfortable enough with them. It wasn't at a friendship basis where I'd just be like, in front of you, I could not care less. I would climb in the shortest shorts and
oh, really? You don't care?
Yeah, I don't care. Sorry.
What I think of you. Oh, no. But do you think it would make a difference, like, if you're in a completely new gym, like, a different country? Because I think that was my situation, because I was climbing in Berlin, and it was, like, the second time I was there, and I knew it was going to be the last time for that summer. So for me, it didn't really matter that these dudes, like, whatever they thought about me or whatever, yeah, it didn't really matter, because you're in a foreign country.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think that just that whole anonymity of, you know, you're more comfortable because you know these people, even if they are judging you, they won't be able to see you again after that. But I think the whole idea of these people are thinking about my body or judging my body is insane. Yeah. And I completely acknowledge the fact that it's kind of insane that people even give you a second glance, but I think we've just been taught to focus on our bodies so much that it's really hard to not think at every moment of the day or every moment when you're doing something that people don't see it or don't acknowledge it, when realistically I don't think I've ever watched a female climber or even a male climber for that and just been staring at their body and thinking about like, oh, that doesn't look nice, or
no, like
or,
I've only
that
looked
looks
at people
great.
to think like, oh, that
Nice
looks
tiny
sick,
move.
like or like, oh, that dude looks really strong, or that woman
Yeah.
looks really strong, which I think is like, I'd never look at someone and be like, I don't think they look great on the
Yeah.
wall, because you can't look ugly climbing.
No.
Like, you can climb ugly, but you can't look ugly climbing. I think that's the incredible part of it. Like, it's so hard not to try hard while climbing, because you're literally meters in the air and you have to try hard because you're hanging on to it. And if you're like me, really don't like heights, you're slightly scared for your life. But yeah, I think it's a strange, but I think also I think the funniest thing I've experienced in terms of like shirtless, because I climbed at a pretty intense place in Denmark called Beta Boulders, where there's so many like super strong people, super intimidating. The walls were so high. They have a lot of like comp style things. So there's a lot of shirtless people. You kind of get used to it. My brother is one of the people that like, he showed up the first time and then he took off his shirt and he was like, I need to power up by taking off my shirt.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
you do, as you do.
But then I was climbing with another friend for like the second time or something, and he took off his shirt. He's like a regular climber, didn't think about it, and then he came up and he was like, you guys just tell me if you're uncomfortable by me like not having a shirt on.
But that's so nice.
And we thought it was like me and my friend
It's hilarious.
like, I've known him for probably like 6 years by now, so I thought it was hilarious that I could feel uncomfortable by him being shirtless, because I don't think I've ever been uncomfortable by anyone being shirtless. It's like the most regular thing in the world, and I think that kind of also highlighted like how little I think about other people being shirtless, because it was just
their body.
It was just obvious to me that he like was warm because it's in the middle of the summer. He took off a shirt. It's easier to climb without a shirt. It's nicer. Then you don't sweat under your shirt. It's incredible. So highlighted for me that didn't really need to do it. Like, it was just stupid thoughts. But do you think there's anything like that you can do internally to sort of get over, like, if you want to? I also think there's plenty of people who like don't have any interest in climbing shirtless, but if you'd wanted to, like, is there anything you could do internally? Because I think the external factors you can't really change, and for the most part, like, there's probably going to be someone that looks at you and thinks that you're hot, because everyone looks hot climbing, but for the most part, no one's going to come up to you and be like, say anything mean. That's highly unlikely, I think. If it happens,
or like
that person's
highly unlikely that they're going to come up to you and wolf whistle you,
and
or
you can't really
something
do
like that.
anything about, like, you're in an establishment, so if any like harassment happens, you can go to the front desk and say it. So most likely anything you'd have to work on would be internally, but I think that's a really big deal as well. But do you think there's any like things that you would do yourself, or like tell other people to do if they'd wanted to climb shirtless but are a little scared of it?
I think I should just do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just need to do it a couple of times and just start to normalize it in my head, because I think the biggest problem, as you said, it's in my head, and I just need to get over the whole obsession with what it's going to look like or what this specific sports bra is going to look like. It's all within my head. So I think in order to, as you do with most phobias even, or fears, you just have to face them the same way you face your fear of heights on a daily basis, essentially, with climbing. But I think that maybe taking baby steps, as in going to a big gym, such as in a different city or something, where you'll just feel more of the anonymity and feel more comfortable because of that. I think that might be a good baby step for me, and the first step, because I don't think I could go back to that very small gym and feel immediately comfortable or even to try it. So I think if I do it a couple of times in bigger spaces or with people that I'm more comfortable with, for instance, if you're also there, and so or more people that I'm pretty close with, I think that makes sense. And then at some point, once I know that that process will normalize it in my head, then hopefully I won't obsess about it and I won't really think about it, and it will just become a natural thing, as it was with your friend, where I'm hot, so I'm going to take off Well, hot and sweaty.
Yeah, for sure. Hot girl summer, y'all. Well, I'm hot, so obviously.
So like, obviously,
I'm doing everyone a favor.
But I think as soon as I normalize it, it should become easier, because wouldn't you say that after you've done it once, the idea of it would be easier for you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think my mom was there, and she took a lot of pictures of me and my brother. It was great to have a photographer there to like completely like shoot all things, make sure to like get videos of your sends. Also have a bunch of videos of things I didn't do, which was not as great, you know. But it was really cool to then see like pictures of yourself afterwards, because I think that was a really big deal in terms of like, I think I had like a very clear image of what I look like climbing, but it has helped so much with like understanding what my body actually looks like in relation to things, to see myself climbing. And like, one thing is seeing yourself fully clothed and be like, because you can see basically your body outline when you're climbing in leggings and a t-shirt, so like it's nice to see yourself and be like, oh, I am that size, I had no idea. But then also to see yourself shirtless climbing, it's just really cool to see, like, because most people can like really quickly like tell like a little bit of back muscle and that kind of stuff, and it just looks incredible. And it's so hard not to be like, that looks sick. Like, it's
I'm
so
proud
cool.
of the stuff I've done to like improve your body for climbing. So like all the muscles you build and you don't really notice them, and then I think like having that moment where you can observe them in action, which you don't usually really see that much because they're covered by a t-shirt.
But even
so
just,
I think
like,
that's really cool.
Seeing yourself like, oh, I'm 3 meters in the air shirtless, trying something like
all
doing
the
something
fears
that's
at
really
once.
hard, and be like, that's incredible. It's so cool to see yourself do that.
Yeah.
So I think that was just a really nice like confirmation that, first of all, like especially on like the internal factors of being like, oh, I don't look like a complete like potato like I think I do in my head sometimes.
Yeah. I think
and
we all think of ourselves
and
as
it looked
potatoes
better on a
so.
picture than it did. Like, I also think, to me, like, obviously when you climb a lot, you think like, oh, that was really sloppy footwork.
Yeah.
It looked like I was trying too hard, blah blah blah. And then when you see the pictures and the videos, you're like, that looks completely fine. And I think that was a really good case of being like, oh, it's nice to kind of look back on and be like, oh, that was okay. I can live with that. So I think that definitely made a really big difference. But yeah, I think for sure, like, just pushing yourself to do it if you can at all is a really good way to sort of get over it. And then also encouraging others to do it if they, like, if a friend, like, if woman friend, female friend, I never know what to say, woman or female. If, like, if another, like, one of your friends comes up to you and, like, oh, I kind of want to take off my shirt, I'm a little warm, like, be like, yeah, let's do it. And then make sure to be supportive of other people doing it, because I think that's a really big deal in terms of, like, getting women more comfortable being shirtless in the gym, which is a great point of activism. A specific one.
It's also very specific for climbing. It's a very big deal.
But in general, in sports, I guess, like,
yeah.
also women running, like, this would be applicable to so many different situations, like women running in a sports bra.
But that's something I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I don't have an issue with running in a sports bra.
Do you think it's, like, the difference of being outside versus inside?
I think so. I think it's more about being in a contained space. Whereas with running, I know even if someone were to observe or judge or
someone sees you running away from them
anyway, you're gone. Exactly. You're going to be
nice.
well in front of them very quickly. So it doesn't matter. But it also comes down to, I was way more comfortable running in a sports bra when I was at the coast, and I knew I wouldn't run into people that I knew, whereas if I was running at home, I would immediately feel slightly less comfortable, especially if I had to run through the town or something like that, because then I know, well, someone might see me and someone might know me. So I think it does all come down to sort of feeling comfortable first with myself when I know nobody knows me, and then sort of working up the self-confidence of just being, well, I don't care even if someone sees me who knows me or might remember me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is a bit different, but it is definitely comes down to the contained space and the whole idea of running into these people again and, God forbid, hearing any kind of criticism, which realistically is never going to happen because no one really cares. But it's also really hard to justify that to the sort of insane part of your brain.
But I think that's a really great conclusion. Like, you should do it if you want to, because realistically, no one really cares.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a great point to like end it on. But first, for the video people, let's do climb of the month.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah. So every month we want to pick out our favorite climbs that we've done that month. Specifically for the video edition of this podcast, because it's going to be on both iTunes and all the podcast places in audio form, but it's also going to be here on YouTube. That was great. But yeah, I think, do you want to start off by saying what you really enjoyed climbing this month?
Yeah, something that I really enjoyed climbing was at the prop house, and it was...
Prop store?
Oh, prop store? Yeah, thank you. So something I really enjoyed climbing was at the prop store here in Glasgow, and it was one of their blue routes, so that's between 5
and 6B?
Yeah, 5 and 6B.
So what do you think it was?
I don't know, maybe I want to tell myself it was a 5C, but 5B?
5B plus?
5B plus. But the reason I enjoyed it was because it did provide just the right amount of struggle where you have to try it out a few times in order to work out, okay, what way do you want to approach this, and sort of work out the beta for yourself, which I think is really fun once you start to get into climbing. Because at the beginning I do think it's easier to just copy someone. But so I had to work it out for a little bit, and it was a bit of a struggle, but it wasn't too much of a struggle that it made me want to just leave the climbing center altogether. So it was a nice little in between those two extremes of being too easy or just soul-crushingly hard.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you? What was your favorite climb of the month?
I think my favorite was this orange we did last time. We were also at the prop store, which was really like technically probably super easy. I think the oranges range from like 5 to 6A.
Yeah.
And this was definitely like max a 5A. I think it was just a 5. So it's like technically like it was super easy in general, but I think it just had some like great moves in terms of like it was as if it was made for my body in terms of like reach
and
so,
height.
like,
yeah,
every like height was just enough that like I had to reach for it, but I could grab onto it easily. So it was just a very like flowy, nice route.
It looked beautiful.
It felt beautiful, which I think happens very rarely, that you climb something that's not just a V0 3 4 whatever that's really easy, but something that feels like it's like just the right climb.
Yeah.
So that was a really nice feeling of finally, because I think a lot of people talk about climbing something that feels your style, and I think that was the perfect, and I think I really want to do that. Made me want to do a lot more things that have really reachy moves, because I think I'm a little taller than you.
Yeah. You can do reachy moves.
So you just always do reachy moves.
Well.
Everything's a reach for you. But I think I really enjoy. I think
right.
I'm gonna try and seek out more reachy things, because I think that felt really like nice for the body. So that was all we had for today. If you want to hear all the things more of us, you can check out our website, trailchums.com.
Or you can follow us on Instagram at Trail Chums.
And this podcast is available both in video and audio form, in video on the YouTubes, and in audio form on all the regular podcasting, wherever you listen, sites. So thanks for listening, and we
Tune
hope
in next month.